Welcome to Shelf Life 10. I'm your host. We're doing double digits. I have a Dr. Pepper Zero. Yay. I'm a day late. It's Monday. No apologies. Hi, everybody. Shelf Life 10. And I don't have a bunch of notes, but I have gotten into some books, and it feels like we're balanced. Let's take our deep breath. So much to talk about. So much to get into. We're getting into it. It's starting to get chilly out here. I had the day off. I didn't have the day off yesterday, so I didn't film Sunday. I just relaxed and I hung out and I had a nice day after a chill day at work. And now I have today off. So today, Monday, I'm going to release it. It's also fun to experiment with your release times to see what hits more. So there we go. I think we're going to move this to Monday, weekday, good morning, start your week, remember to read kind of a podcast. So 10 and on. I do have different books besides Lonesome Dove to talk about, so let's get right into it. And I was going through some of my other books, and I have. Does anyone else have a obsession with different kinds of notebooks? I find notebooks that I've done like this much in, and I have this much left, and I don't want to waste the pages, so I'll just pick this one up now. So now we're on this notebook. Currently reading. Well, currently I'm still reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It's in my phone, so I can't show it to you. Yesterday, it was nice to have a break once again with The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. And I kind of sprinted a little bit through this. This was my first intentional spine break, and it's a big guy, but it's so fun to read. It's like an old newspaper, and I know this was released serially, and it's like just watching an episode. So if I can get one chapter, one episode in a week of The Count, like that's a different kind of experience that I'm not used to in a book. Like let's stretch it out, let's make it like an episode. Let's wait, savor this one, because I have a feeling after this one, I have a couple in mind that would compare to something like this, and I want to see if experiencing a book in this way is something I want to do. Because once these big classics are gone, it's like don't waste them. So that's been the old, but not like the meat of what I've been getting at. And after reading Lonesome Dove and having a big boy, I went back. I started this over, DeLillo's White Noise. I thought I was going to be able to read this during Lonesome Dove. Impossible. So I got to part 3 in DeLillo's White Noise, and so far, I don't think it's as funny as everyone thinks it is. It's quirky and it's got a little bit of attitude and a couple of like snide remarks, and there's a lot of hidden subtle laughs. They're chuckles. It's not like a downright laugh out loud kind of a read. Whereas I thought Infinite Jest definitely had a number of those. We're going to get into that in a little while. But White Noise, I've been enjoying it. It's fun, it's captivating. I love the short chapters. I love how they leave you to your own devices. I love the wild absurdity and randomness that's in these towns, and it's like this randomness and this high neon kind of pictures in my head, and it's in some of the most mundane circumstances, but not really. They get wild and more absurd as it goes on. No spoilers. Last episode, I started getting used to talking about spoilers, so I'm not gonna spoil that one yet. But White Noise, I'm really enjoying that. Now, let's see. What else do I want to chat about? Oh, the Yale Open courses. I'm on the second video of W.B. Yeats, and it's kind of refreshing once again to read his poetry and see basic, not basic, but like the old school rhymes. Like they fit like a cadence in your own head. I don't know if that's because of the times and what I grew up with in reading poetry, or that just fits a natural rhythm in every human's head, whether it be written back then or written now. It's funny how language works that way. But to see kind of like the old school, not cadence, maybe it is cadence, but just like it fits like a song. It's like language is song. The meter. WB Yeats has some very basic meter. It's like certain artists when they only use primary colors or a certain palette of colors. They're limiting themselves, but there there's genius in the constraints. But it's not wildly abstract, crazy. It's like, all right, we're out of Robert Frost, we're into Yeats, a little bit different, but it's consumable. And I do like how they're not big, huge, long pages of poetry. It's like minimalism, concise with words, fun. So with the poetry, Marcus, little bit of Dumas and White Noise, I had a pretty good amount to get through, but I wasn't. It's like I was waiting to finish all of those other things to get into something more exciting, something more hits the dopamine. And I got that this week. I started reading another book on top of this, and I think this is kind of like the perfect balance with because I've been thinking about like this last month. I only mainly read one book, hyper focused, and I remember doing that, and I remember doing that with Infinite Jest, which was what I wanted to read. Took me a long time, but I wanted to get something more in these lines, and I didn't want to hop directly from one huge book to another huge book, but I inevitably did that, and I am reading right now with my copy with the messed up page. This is my second gas, The Tunnel. And I started this 2 days ago, 3 days ago. I'm on page 40. Here. I do these little watercolors. See, that's a guy riding a bike in the snow. And then I just use these as postcards. Or not postcards, bookmarks. Also, with bookmarks, when there's certain things that are hard to read, I like square bookmarks with a straight line so I can go line by line, line by line. And then it's not just what page I'm on, it's what line am I on. That's how I like using them. But I mean, even in the text, there's strange things. I think I talked about this a little bit last week. But like, what is all this? What's all this stuff? And it's crazy. So I started reading this, not at like a super crazy pace, but there's a couple other people reading this right now. And coming back after reading Omen Setter's Luck, that was a bizarro book. Coming back to Gas and starting the tunnel again, it's the same dude. It's the same strange, jumpy, what are you talking about? And with my experience with Gas right now, it's kind of like, all right, we're going to wander through this dreamscape of thought and this rambling, and you kind of doubt yourself. It's like you're gaslighting yourself into like, am I understanding what's happening? And then boom, he's going to hit you with some of the most insane prose in literature, and it's going to just shock you. So it's like walking through the fog, and then all of a sudden, baseball bat. Like, what did I just read? And with having that back in my currently reading list, it's like a breath of fresh air after the past month or so. Like this is the flavor of reading I want, and I'm really trying to not overdo it. And with Omen Setter's Luck, there wasn't a ton of resources. Like people were talking back and forth online, but I found, because I like to get into the authors, I found a Gas YouTube interview. And I didn't watch the whole thing, but after a while, like you start getting intrigued with this guy. You're like, he's got some strange points, and he's I like the way he talks. And then a couple down in the search, I see the tunnel by Gas, written by Gas, read by Gas. All right, so at this point I was like 20 pages in, and it's like I don't know if what I read is what I'm thinking it is. Maybe I'm not that great of a reader right now. Maybe this is the practice, and I'm trudging through the mud getting with this. This is not like an easy read. You got to pay attention. At least I'm finding you got to pay attention. And I put on the audio of up to where I read, and I just did my workout, and I picked up so much more. So much more. So then I did a tag along, like from page 20 something to page 40. I listened and read at the same time. And it's a completely different experience. I'm reading and listening. I'm not calling them both reading, but I'm reading and listening at the same time. I've either always read a book or I listened to the audio, and one was the other. And I've never done the simultaneous, and it's completely different experience. I I think I'm going to continue reading The Tunnel in this way because last week I said, and I'm still going to do it. I said that I'll be doing an Infinite Jest review, and I'm not going to lie, I have. Let me take a sip of this. I'm getting parched. I'm afraid I have outdone myself. I watched a couple like reviews and in-depth things about Infinite Jest. And I mean, some of the videos out there on YouTube that go deep into Infinite Jest, it brought me back to reading it. It brought me back to everything that I was thinking about that I don't know if I had a handle on that, and it either reaffirmed it or like, nope, you had no idea what was happening there. It was nice to hear the names of other it was nice to hear the names pronounced correctly from other people. It was very refreshing, but it was also intimidating because it's like, oh, I do not have the breadth of knowledge for that book to give a real review. And when I started reading Infinite Jest, that was kind of like the beginning of my like literature phase because I've always read, but it was always like how to run, how to lift weights, like not this kind of stuff. And I have because I feel like a lot of my reading now is catch up to get to the literary level, like the progressive overload of knowing what I'm talking about with books. At least in the genre and subgenre, it's the same with metal. It's like the subgenre of literature. I need to get in the basics. But after watching these reviews, I have never wanted to reread a book more ever. Like it brought me back to like, oh yeah, you're talking about that weird plot loop and like this story and that story and how they're all interconnected. And do you remember this part? And it was just like, oh yes, that movie. It's like you can't rewatch the trailer of your book's movie. Like it doesn't have a trailer to it that you can't like, oh, do you remember how sick that was? And hearing these reviews, it totally set me back. So when I do my review this month, because I said I'm going to do it, I have to do it. It's going to be with the lightest and most like you're going to see what happens when someone trudges through this and refuses to give up what I can absorb. And then I'm probably going to say like, hey, if you want to reread this with me, let's spend a year doing this, like a chapter or two. What do you think of that? Like, let me know. But that's coming. But to get this flavor back in to the current reading and to have the resource of listening to audio while picking it up the first time, I'm not going to pass up the opportunity to experience a book like this from the voice of the author. Like, he's going to say the sentences the right way. And if you've read Gas, you know, like, where do I put the emphasis? How are you saying this? And to hear him read it, awesome resource. It's free on YouTube. Like, and that's what a lot of this is, me teaching myself. And, no judgment in people who can only listen, even though it's called just listening, or however you consume uh, books and literature. Like it, but I'm gonna try out as many as I can because it's all about getting it in your head. Like, you need to just be able to process it and get it in your head. Then you can make more well-rounded opinions about things. Yeah, man. Um, what else do we have? Infinite. So I thought this was kind of funny, and I like it was not. It was such a dopamine hit to we're doing the tunnel. We're doing it, right? We're gonna do this. And then you just dive in. And you're on that wavelength of like getting to the meat of what you want to get at. Like, this is the kind of reading that I aim to be doing. I don't have to have all these prerequisites. And I mean, what a rush. Like, it felt like, shopaholics. Like, all right, here we go. We're back in. So right now, doing it, and it was the joy of being impulsive with it, and like, like, I don't know if you can tell, like, it pumps me up. I got the stoke, but I did find myself again in a position where two of the books, they're very, I mean, this is about a guy who wrote about one thing. This is a guy who teaches about that same thing. And come on, let's get away from one thing. Not fun, but it's fun. But it's like, you're reading two books on the same subject. Come on, like, we found ourselves here before. Yeah, guys. Shelf life, and we didn't do a spoiler. We had a breadth of stuff we wanted to talk about. Isn't this nice? I changed up my shelf. I kind of cleaned up my shelves a little bit. These are the come down and grab it next area. This is organized things that I have read, currently reading. Up next in the fancy pants area, and then miscellaneous down below. What? Just other quick recaps. What's my recent book haul? Nothing. I didn't buy anything. Save your money. You have plenty of books on your shelf. Anything else? Am I forgetting? Nope. The studies, the count. I'm at the part where, in the Abbey, the other prisoner, he is now talking about, this is my treasure. This is the kind of treasure I'm having right now. And you're starting to be like, is this guy sick? Is he nuts? Because he's just had 2 seizures. What's going to happen with him? So that's just, an update. I'm still very early in the count. Haven't cracked any spines. This was a natural weight crack, an organic crack. Whereas the count was, I did that myself. I manhandled it. But the white noise one did it by itself. McMurtry, that spine did not crack because it was very soft binding. Interesting to see if the tunnel will crack. But I think I'm an organic spine cracker. If it doesn't happen on its own, it didn't happen. Thank you again. This is Shelf Life 10. I really appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe, everything. Even go back and watch the other ones that you weren't on par with yet. Let's get this going. Like and subscribe for more Shelf Life. Thank you again. Arrivederci. I will see you next Sunday, Monday, depending on how this is received. Love you all. Keep reading, read more, get some books, and I'm out.